Good evening, my name's Suzanne, and tonight I'm going to talk to you about or discuss unhealthy signals magazine advertisement gives to young women or teens. And I'm sure most of you have stood in line at a grocery store at one time or another and noticed the magazines showing flawless, perfect people. And most of these people are portrayed in that way. And I remember as a teenager, having magazines, 17 in particular, and seeing these women on there and wanting to be like them. So I think that, most teenagers tend to be the same way. So what I want to talk about tonight is who is affected by this, give some examples of some things that I've seen or read about in magazines, and talk about what young women are doing in order to look like these people, and then what we can do as parents to, help our teenagers. So who's affected? I think no one's really immune to it. I think male, female, any nationality. But tonight I'm going to focus on young teenage women. So recently in the February 2014-17 magazine featured Pretty Little Liars, Troyan Bellisario. And she was on the front cover of the magazine, and she was opening up about how she had an eating disorder and how that affected her life in the past. But on the front of the same exact magazine cover, an even larger print than her name, was an ad or a print that said, "Get an insane body. It's hard, but you'll look hot." So to me, it's kind of contradictory, because you've got somebody on the front cover talking about an eating disorder that they had and how they suffered with that as a young adult. And then you have on there, get this hot body no matter what it takes, sort of thing, in even larger print. So that's just one example. Another example that I found is in Self magazine back in 2009. Kelly Clarkson was shown on the front of the magazine, and she was very slimmed down to the point where she really was, you couldn't recognize her. She looked completely different than how people had seen her, recently. And in the article, she was talking about how she felt secure with her body, and yes, her weight went up and down, but with that, she was happy and she had confidence. So the article was about self-confidence, but what they did was they used photoshopping and digital alterations and image manipulation and makeup to change her to look different than what she actually looked like. So 3 days later, when she was on Good Morning America, she looked completely different and was, 10, 15 pounds heavier than she was before. So that's just some examples of what's going on in magazines and what they can do with the different types of photoshopping that they have. So what I want to talk about is how it's affecting young women. So the first thing is lost self-esteem. Girls are dealing with depression, body image distortion, feeling like they're not good enough. That's one thing that's going on. The second thing is the lost money and trying to make themselves perfect. All these advertisements out there thinking that if they buy this, if they do this, that they'll be flawless. So dealing with that. So I think between that and the lost money, in addition to being obsessed with their weight. Just to give you a statistic, and this is the National Association for Anorexia Nervosa and Associated Disorders, 69% of girls in 5th through 12th grade reported that magazines influence their idea of the perfect body shape. And 81% of 10-year-olds are afraid of being fat. So, that's a problem. And then you have bulimia and anorexia, which come with that, where girls are trying to starve themselves to be, as thin as they possibly can, because they're comparing themselves to something that's completely unrealistic. These women are not flawless. They do not really look like that, but they're portrayed to look like that in the magazine. And our young teenagers are looking at them. So, and then ultimately with anorexia and bulimia is death. So So what can we do as parents? I mean, obviously the main thing is not to let them have them, but they're going to. So one thing is discuss the articles with the children. So use those as things, discussion points to maybe point out things in the articles that aren't necessarily facts or true. Another thing is to counter the magazine articles with something else. So, if you've got an article about one thing, you can counter that article with another article or a book of a famous female strong woman that's contradictory to what they're actually looking at. And then, obviously I feel like there should be restrictions to magazines, with not being able to alter what people look like. That would be great, but not sure if that would happen. And then, just regulating what they're actually viewing and purchasing. So hopefully this gives you an idea of what's going on out there and, and what we can do to hopefully help our teenage girls to make better decisions and view their bodies in a different way. Thank you.